Have you ever been bored? We have, or at least I was. So I come up with this game. Welcome to the iPhoneography podcast. My name is Greg McMillan, and I am joined by my co-hosts, Dave and Dwight. Hey, guys.
Hey, Greg.
Dave, you look bored.
Bored. Bored.
Yeah. So we were doing this little thing, and it's kind of a thing that I kind of conjured up out of boredom. And so what we do is I did it with Dave first, and I told Dave, okay, pick a year. And Dave picked a year, and I said make it like within these certain years or whatever. And then I said, okay, pick a month, and he picked a month. And I said, okay, now pick a day in that month, and he picked a day. And then I said, okay, now pick a number between 1 and whatever, and that whatever is the number of photos that I had taken that day. So what the challenge is in the game or whatever is you get a friend to pick a date like this, go through the process of narrowing it down to one photo, and then you have to edit that photo and show them, or you could post it on the podcast group or whatever, the before and after. So that's what the three of us did. And I think it was pretty cool. So when Dave and I did it, and you don't have to do it like immediately. You do it when you have time, type of thing. So I did mine on the night that I thought of it, and Dave was on another podcast. Go ahead and plug it, Dave. You might as well plug the podcast.
Yeah,
you're on.
I believe I'm trying to remember because I was on 2 podcasts that day. I was
were
on
you?
both.
It was in the evening.
Okay, yeah. Well, they're both on the evening. I was both on Awesome Cast and the Wrestling Mayhem Show. So I was on both of them. They're both normally Tuesday nights.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so when you got to yours, you did it like the next day, I believe, or at least later that night. But I didn't see it till the next day, and that's fine. But I thought it was a really cool exercise. And then Dwight, we got you into it. I think it was either later that day again or the next day. I would have pinged you, but you had you had your notifications turned off or whatever, or on silent type of thing. So I figured, okay, you're busy. And, but then, once we all got into doing this, I think it was kind of fun, and it's a pretty cool, way to challenge your friends to edit a photo that they normally wouldn't even think twice of doing. Or there's the off chance that it could be one that they've already done. So we did these, and we're going to show our befores and afters. So if you're listening on the Apple Podcasts app, take a look at your phone screen. It'll be there. And obviously, if you're watching the YouTube video,
unless of course you're driving, don't look at the dashboard if it's on CarPlay.
Right, because Dave is my voice of reasoning. And I know it shows up in other podcast players, but Spotify, I don't believe it shows up there. So if you're not listening on Apple Podcasts, you should be, because it's an Apple-oriented program. But anyway, so we're gonna look at Dave's first pair here. This was the first one. This was the original image that we honed down into selecting for you to edit. And I guess I should say too that when we were trying to narrow it down, we kind of came up with the problem that either we weren't very active taking pictures that time, or for whatever reason, there's just nothing to choose from. So Dwight had the idea, I think it was, to pick from a week within that week, and so it's kind of leaving it up to the person who's being challenged to edit a photo to pick one, but it's got to be within that week. So, and we were going back like 2, 3, 4 years, whatever. And generally it was what was in our camera roll. So, people usually have older photos in there anyway. So, but I thought this was a really fun challenge. So Dave, this is your first one.
Yep.
And, I think I might have seen this picture before.
I used it as a post pick of the week in the past, yes.
Right, yeah.
But it's been a year and a half, because that was December 23, so...
Yeah.
So it's been a while. And also, if you want to just, instead of, let's say, having a friend challenge you, go and bring up like a random date. Either ask C or E, try not to make anyone's devices go off. Give me a random date. And you can even say, give me a random date from 2019 to 2023. That way it's not like very, very recent, or depends on how many photos you have. If it gives you a random date, it may give you one before, a random date is, November 16th, 1923. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to have any photos from there, obviously. So you can do that, but or go to a website if you don't feel like if you hate her, like I don't know, Mark Sadowski of Tiny Sugar fame hated her or still hates her. So this was Christmas a year and a half ago or so. And when I edited it then, I actually threw in some snow in quotes onto the photo, and made it a little bit more, because you can see if you look at the photo, it's pretty much, it was night, but the sky wasn't that impressive looking. The house in the background is kind of a muted yellow, and you can't really see much with the trees on the hill across the river. The really main focus there is the street light with the garland on it. So I wanted to spruce it up a little bit. So I threw it through a couple different apps, and
this is a result.
That is what came up.
So I have no idea what apps you probably used. Dwight, you might know. I see you studying it.
Yeah.
I'm actually double checking myself here, because literally it was a few apps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Yeah.
One
was Photomator.
Yeah.
So I did some work on there, kind of making the bottom a little darker so it's more of a silhouette on the bottom part there, and working with the sky a little bit. And then I put it into Camera Plus, and I used a couple of their filters, and that's kind of where the purple bluish tinge comes from, especially in the sky. And from then I used Pic Collage to put the Happy Holidays on there, because it had the Pic Collage. Of course, you can't by default. I shouldn't say by default. It really was set up as literally a collage app. You have 4 photos, throw it up there in a pattern or a frame or something. But it actually, for text, you can actually use patterns on the text. So that's why the Happy Holidays is not as solid red and green. It has a little bit of a sparkle to it.
Yeah. That's very creative, and you could actually print those on the front part of a Christmas card very easily. And okay, so this is what I like about this game, because chances are you never would have thought to do that with that photo.
No, agreed.
Before, right? And now that you were forced to put an edit on it, not forced, but you were challenged to put an edit on that photo, and look what you come up with. I think it's brilliant.
Not thank you. And now, one thing I kept trying to do in the sky to the left, where it's mostly not really white space, but it's mostly just
there's some
pattern.
There's some negative
space there. To see if I could put up fireworks, like Christmas colored fireworks from that would be like for going back in the day, pic art, or a silhouette of a Santa going there, but it just couldn't make it look right.
Right. Yeah.
So I figured, you know what, it isn't straight negative space like the silhouette down below, because you have the colors going on. So I figured it's enough that I could leave that, just leave it there as negative.
Yeah, I think it's, there's peacefulness in negative space, right? It's kind of nice to see a photograph that's not completely covered, a piece of artwork that's not completely covered with something. So I think that's nice. Now, there is an app called, I think it's Repic or Repix, one of those, and you can pick at the bottom like stars, and you can just take your finger and put some stars up in there, or fireworks.
I want to say it sounds familiar, and I may have downloaded it years ago.
Yeah, Repix, I think, is what it's called. And you can add all different types of textures on there. It's kind of fun. I'll use that sometimes in some of my artwork for finishing touches.
Yeah, that's cool. There's so many different apps out there. I'm telling you, it would be impossible to keep up to them all.
I don't. It's just REPIX.
I think it's REPIX or RIPICS or REPICS, something like that.
If it's even still available.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, now, well, that's the face changer Repic, and there's a Repic AI property, and there's Repix with an S, and that's AI photo. Like I said, there it is. REPIX AI photo enhancer.
I don't think that's it.
Okay, yeah, that looks more for like you want to do some major fixing on stuff, not just adding. But yeah, I've seen apps where you can do things like not just change the sky, but add little bits to a photo like that.
Yeah, like even lens distortions would have some stuff in there, I think.
I know I have it on my iPad, and my iPad's not close to me, but I will try to.
I know you can do something similar in both Photomator and not Photomator. I'm sorry, Photo Room. And the what was it called again? The Pic Collage. They both have that ability. It's just that the photos and the cutout really didn't work that well. So yeah, I've seen apps like that, definitely. So there's always ways you can, add additional things if you want to.
I will try to get my iPad here during the show and then actually take your photo and do something on the screen with it if I can find that app.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right. So, what we have here is a case where it almost seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but it almost seems like a long forgotten photo. You used it on the show once before, and maybe you would have, come across it again at some point, but I would think myself, chances would have been not very good.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it's a great image. The before image is a great image to start with, and I just love what you've done with the edit. Making the lights nice and bright red and all that stuff, and it almost has an aurora look to the sky in the background. So
yeah, it's nice. I like the different shades and luminance values of the background as well.
Thanks. Yeah. And a lot of that, like I said, I don't use Camera Plus to take photos. I use it because of the filters and the fact that the filters are somewhat limited in terms of the number. So you don't have a choice of 200 filters, which unless you go through and you're like, okay, here's my 5 favorites. I also like the fact you can stack filters in that program. So you can say, okay, they have one called 70s and one called tail fins. So it's like a 1950s like photo, and you can stack them and change the intensity of each filter. So you can stack multiple ones to get different looks to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So next we have Dwight. This is your before photo.
Yeah, that's a I forget what those are called, but that's Dana Point headlands. This is a Pro Raw photo, and I've been kind of going back and forth with Norman, one of our some of the
Oh yeah.
He's very interested in, the correct process of modifying pro raw images as I am, starting with Lightroom and, using the correct profile and that type of thing. So, so this is a pro raw image, and I brought it into Adobe Camera Raw, and it immediately presents itself with the pro raw profile because it recognizes it as a pro raw photo. And this again is in the same time frame that we all chose to pick a photo. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, it's not a Bayer raw. I don't want to edit a pro raw photo. But David Addison came out with with a video the other day, and he's talking about how you can work with Pro Raw. You can reduce the amount slider in Lightroom, which takes some of the effect of the sharpening and denoise and the deep fusion processing that the iPhone camera does. But I found when I took it down to the point where I liked it, it was really hard for me to get my exposure right and shadows and stuff. So I went with the Adobe Color profile space, and I liked it. It just softened everything up, and I'm kind of at a point now where I may start exploring working with Pro RAW photos a little bit more alongside with my Bayer RAW photos and the lens dedicated profiles for the iPhone that I have. Yeah, so this was a Pro RAW photo. So
and here's the edit, which is really cool. I mean, before you go any further, I want to know one thing.
Mm-hmm.
How those rocks got standing up like that.
Yeah, so there's people that go down there and they stack these things, and sometimes they're down there all day, and I forget what this is. There's a name for it, and maybe one of our guests can help me out. But sometimes they'll spend all day down there, and sometimes they'll get 2 or 3 of these things on top of each other, and you can't figure out how they did it. And I showed this to my sister, and she said it looked like upside down animals with their legs sticking up in the air. But
yeah.
but you can really find some really neat man-made structures down there. So my process here was starting with the color profile, and I brought it down. I still isolated the foreground and the sky, and I wanted to try to bring the scene back to how I remember it. And there was more of kind of a magenta tint coming in from the sunset. So I wanted to bring that in. But as I was telling Greg before the show, this started out as obviously a smaller file, but I had so many different layers in Photoshop to get to the point that I actually liked it, or how it represented the scene, that by the time I was done with this and smart objects and all that stuff, it ended up being a 1.8 gigabyte file, which is huge. But
Dave's jaw just dropped.
Yeah, so
just like mine did when I first heard about it.
Yeah, I had 3 or 4 smart objects because I went out into Adobe Camera Raw and a couple times, and I wanted to be able to go back in there if I needed to. But in this one, I brought out the foreground. I worked with the sky a little bit separately, and a lot of dodging and burning I wanted some contrast between the shadows and the highlights, to come out. And this is kind of where it ended up. And in my opinion, it's more representative of the scene than I had with the original photo, which is typical with an iPhone photo.
Yeah. And now would you have edited this image at any point, or do you think it was one of those, long lost, forgotten ones?
No, I would have. I actually had edited another one in this series, but I overlooked this one. I probably would have edited it if I saw it. I kind of like the depth that is created between the 4 standing rocks there. It's kind of it kind of walks you into the scene. And the first one here, starting relatively on the right third, and then it just kind of walks you back to the rock in the back. So I figured, and I didn't have it really too many other choices given the date range that we challenged each other with.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So again, I can't stress enough that that's what I love about this challenge. You could call it a challenge, you can call it a game, whatever you want to call it. It's either way is fine. But what I like about it is that you're challenged to work on an image that you either forgot about or maybe otherwise wouldn't have. And when we get to mine, that is a big case in point. I never would have edited mine unless if it wasn't for this this challenge. But I really like the colors. It looks like it looks so much more natural to me than the Pro Raw file did to begin with. Nice warm sunset, the gradients in the sky. I just and the crop that you did. There is a bit of a crop to it, which I think the final crop balances it out quite nicely.
Yeah, and I'm noticing a problem. You have to be real careful when you're working with contrast and stuff, because you can get a little bit of a halo around some of your objects there, and I can kind of see that a little bit around the rock.
Yeah.
So there's ways of taking that out. I just missed it on this one. But yeah, lesson learned. I always try to do my sharpening last as opposed to first, because once you sharpen it, then let me see, do I have that right? Yeah, then you start putting edits on top of it. It can kind of make it look weird, but yeah. You generally sharpen for the output too, right? Mm-hmm. The size of the output even makes a difference. What I normally do is I soften the image. I didn't want it to be over sharpened as Pro Raw usually does. So what I'll usually do is I'll stamp all the layers at the end into one image. I'll go into Adobe Camera Raw and I'll just pick the texture up a little bit and the clarity up just a little bit. I'll come back to Photoshop, make it a black mask so it's not on anything, and then I'll just take a soft brush, at maybe 50% opacity, and just kind of tap in the areas where I want to see a little bit of a little more detail. I don't want to see it everywhere. To me, that doesn't look natural. So I can kind of control where that effect is. And then I closed off the top and bottom a little bit, and then just a vignette, and that's about it. Yeah. You guys gave me that range, and I'm like, cool. I just found this one. I get to edit this one. So I lucked out.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I saw the 3 stones that were on end, and the one on the left, which I'm assuming is natural.
Oh, that's stacked.
That's stacked too. Okay. Yep. And the first thing I thought of was a Shorehenge.
Oh yeah,
because it has a Stonehenge look to it almost, with the pillars looking in a circle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just like I said, taking, and I know you're not a big fan of Pro Raw, taking that and then, like I said, you almost, I don't want, like Greg said, not forcing, but saying, okay, challenge yourself by working on this format that you don't prefer and see how you can work with it. Mm-hmm. And so you had to step out of your comfort zone. And that's the only place we learn. We don't learn in our comfort zone. We only learn when we step out of it.
Yes.
So sometimes we have to force ourselves out of it.
Mm-hmm. That is so true, Dave.
What would be kind of interesting for the future is if we do this again, we pick the app that we have to use to do the actual editing.
Ooh, up in the game a bit.
To Dave's point, right? If I had to go into another app
exactly
to do it, then I'm still trying to build my Photoshop skills, but if we do it in Photomator, I've got to figure out how to do the same thing in Photomator or get as close as I can to it. But that would be a good challenge too.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and and I guess I should have mentioned at the beginning too. don't like when it comes down to the final selection of the image, like if it's if the challenger is able to pin it down to one image, if you don't want to edit that image for, reasons of it's too personal or, there's some, something private about that image that you don't want, obviously to put out there, just say so and, pick another image. But so the same thing kind of applies when it comes to apps. Like if you don't have the app, just say, okay, I don't have that one, and pick another one. So it's not, we're not going to make people go out and buy apps or download apps that they don't want just to do this challenge type of thing. But preferably it'd be something that somebody would have on their phone. I mean, even photos, if it comes down to it, if that's the only thing you ever use, then I guess that's what you use, that type of thing. So,
but also I would say that most apps do have a free option. That way you're not saying, oh, you have to use this app, and by the way, pay up. Lightroom Mobile, there's a free option. I don't know about Photomator. I don't know if it has any more or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Just because I purchased it so long ago, I forget. But yeah, most apps have, either reduced image quality or reduced options for free.
Yeah, and this isn't about making a gallery print worthy big image. It's just an exercise in opening up your creativity to do something that you normally wouldn't do, like the image, work on an image that you normally wouldn't work on or that you haven't worked on for a long time. Like in your case, Dave, you did an edit on yours previously, but what you did do it this time is like, wow, big time difference. So it's the whole point of this thing is to spark your creativity. So I think it's really fun. So mine is something that I never would have edited this image. And I'll tell you why. Because, okay, so in this particular night when I shot this, I was in a parking lot and I went to this location to try to get this meteor shower. And as it turns out, I got skunked. I didn't see one meteor that whole time I was there. And I was there for probably about an hour. And I saw the tree here was lit up by somebody's taillight on their car. So I swung the camera over. It was on the tripod. I locked it down and I just took a shot. And this was basically the outcome. So for me, the red was way too bright. It was way overpowering in the image. So what I did, and that's basically all it is, just an image of a tree in a parking lot. But what I kind of like the fact that you can see the stars in the background. So night mode still did a pretty good job. And this was on my 15 Pro Max, I believe. And, it did a pretty decent job of still getting all the stars. But even with that big disruption of red light in the foreground. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised at how well it did. But then when I did the edit, I toned down the redness in the trees. When I took the red color down, it emphasized the Dale Lotherington in the chat says red gate confirmed for iPhone 15 Pro Max. Yeah, we have blue gate in the 16 Pro. We had line gate before. We've had all these different gates, and now he wants to have a red gate. But Shane's in the house. I missed that. Was that the red light? That it was the tail light off a car.
It only happens on Android phones.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a little inside baseball here. Shane, if you haven't seen Shane's latest video, go watch it. It's a really good one. It's all about his transition, I guess you could say, over to using a Samsung phone, and he's got some damn good reasons to do it too, in my opinion. So if you haven't seen the video, go check it out and stay tuned to his channel for some really cool stuff coming from the Samsung phone and other phones too, for that matter. So, in fact, I'll put a link in the show notes for this latest video because I think it's a really good one. It's really worth watching. But anyway, so the red, I toned the red down in the trees, and I think I did something to the blues, which kind of enhanced the sky color a little bit more. And all this was done in Luminar Neo, by the way. It's becoming my new favorite editing app. And even though it's on the desktop, it's not. It's on. There's Luminar Mobile on the phone, but I can't do nearly as much with it as I can with Neo on the desktop. So, I think. I also ran through. There's a mood section on in Luminar Neo where you can add a LUT, and I put a LUT on to. I think it was like a mystery. I think it was mystery LUT. There's like 10 mystery LUTs that I have, and it was just one of them that I kind of just liked the way it looked. And then basically just a vignette around the outside, feathered it nicely and all that. And in the settings for the vignette in Luminar Neo, you can bring up the inner light, like the inside, the middle of the image. You can bring that light up a little bit. And I think that's about all I did to that image. But again, I would not have thought twice to edit this photo if it weren't for this challenge that we're doing here. It to me, it kind of looks kind of creepy or almost like horror movie style or something. But yeah, so that's my edit on a non-editable image, in my opinion.
Yeah, the red really did overwhelm so much on that.
Yeah.
It is kind of neat though, the way there's nothing really else around it though. So it isn't like you have a wall or a light overhead, an overhead light that the red would also reflect on. So it really looks like the trees are red. But that's it. So you don't really see it doesn't feel like a car backup light. Like I said, if you were near another structure where the light would also show on that, but the contrast between the red and the tree silhouette and then the sky in the background.
Yeah.
Just giving you that layer look too.
Yeah, Greg, can you go to the before after or the before photo real quick?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think kind of what Dave was saying here, the red here is overpowering. I mean, that's really kind of all you see, and you can see the sky in the background. But if you go to your edit, now it's balanced out. Now the sky is popping in the background a little bit. The tree is a little bit more muted. It's a little bit more balanced out. So yeah, it's spooky, spooky cool. I like it.
Yeah, like I say, this challenges you to do something that you normally wouldn't do. Oh, I think my dog wants out.
No, I'd put a silhouette in the bottom of a person smoking a cigarette with some smoke coming up. Probably I'd do something like that.
Wearing a federo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a trench coat.
Yep.
Yeah. Had I shot lower and got like the base of the tree, that would have been a perfect idea.
Well, you can do shoulders up,
like shoulders up or top.
Yeah, and you can do that in Luminar Neo with layers, so you can have fun with that.
Right. Well, I might have to try that. Yeah. So this whole thing is just to, like I said, I can't stress enough. It's to open up your creativity. And we've talked about how you can challenge people to use a specific app or whatever. Like that will really get you thinking out of the box. I think we're going to try that, guys. We'll try one where we have to use the app that we're told to use, whether it's like a phone app, desktop, whatever. As long as we have it, we'll try that and see what we come up with. And before the recording, Dwight come up with an idea that we're going to explore. We're not going to say we're going to do it just yet, because we got to think about some logistics here, but maybe getting some of the community involved in the Facebook group with if there's anybody in the group that wants to be part of this challenge, they can challenge us to do an edit, and vice versa. And we can see what the results would be with somebody other than just ourselves here. But we got to work that out, see how we'll play that one. But I think it's a lot of fun. And so Shane says in the comments here, light balancing these shots can be challenging. When I light paint something, the power of the light source is the most important part. Yeah, this is brake lights on a vehicle. They were really bright. It must have been like a newer vehicle to have brake lights that bright. But when I first saw it, I thought, okay, I gotta get this just to see what it's going to look like. And when I did, I obviously didn't think much of how it was presented on the screen. So, but yeah, light balance and all that stuff could come into play. Yeah, just a lot of fun to do. So if you do this challenge with somebody, and you don't mind sharing your results, put it in the Facebook group and say what you did and with who. And if say if you and a friend did it, put both sets of images in the same post if you can, or tag the person and they can share their results or whatever. I think it's a really good exercise to get people thinking about different ways that they can work on their images, and because that's a big part of photography is the editing. And there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that just point and shoot and don't do any editing, but it's a great way to learn and have some fun. So
yeah, and I think what Shane's talking about here, if you look at some of his videos, he does a great job of lighting his foreground, but still accentuating the night sky. He's brilliant at getting the stars and the night photography. I think if that balance isn't correct on the foreground lighting, it's going to take away from the scene that he's really intending to do. But I think he's showing depth that way, and as long as that balance is right there, his photos are looking really great.
Yeah. So
you should go check some of his stuff out. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's always been a link for his channel in the show notes too. So but I'll definitely put a link to his latest video in the show notes, and you can hear his story about his switch to Samsung. And I won't say Android, I'll say Samsung, because when you say Android, there's so many different Android phones. Samsung is just one of them. There's basically just about any smartphone out there other than iPhone is Android. So I think it's fair to say Samsung, because a Samsung phone is different than, say, an Oppo or a Pixel. They all have their own camera systems and all that stuff. Like the hardware, there's differences in the hardware from all these different types of phones.
Well, and also software. I mean, especially Samsung. Well, yeah. Samsung, which has always tried to put its own little skin over Android, mainly because they don't want to be beholden to Google and have Google say, "Oh, we're going to change this in Android," and then they're stuck with it, type thing. So so everyone has their own little extra. And I know Shane has a lot more options than those of us in the States, since there are phones like the Huawei phones that he has access to that we can't get here.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what all he has for phones. I know he has more than one Android phone. I'm pretty sure he does. Well, yes, he does, because he has a Google Pixel. But I'm not sure what else he has. I know he used to have a Huawei at one time. Whether he still has it, I'm not sure. But I'd love to see him get his hands on, if he could. Again, it depends on where you are in the world. But there's there's a Vivo. There's Shane says there's Harmony OS as well, and I think is that the one that's on the Huawei phones. And that's that's kind of layered over top of Android, I believe, or no, wait, no, I guess it is its own operating system. being an iPhone guy, I don't really know that much about all these different.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the
ones.
phones that are, because I know the way Google handles, Harmony. He said Harmony is his own. The way Google handles Android, especially for items shipped to China, is different because of local rules that China has, and they may be Android phones, but they're not Google Android phones. They're based on the open Android part. So there's complications there. There is complication there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, complications beyond just the technology.
Yeah. And what I love to see is the fact that all those brands of phones, whether they're running Android or Harmony or whatever they're running, the hardware that these companies have put in for their cameras is getting better and better and better. And the competition is getting really, really good. You see comparison videos. Every time a new flagship phone comes out, somebody on YouTube is doing a comparison video between, say, the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the S25 Ultra Samsung phone, or a variation of different ones. And when I watch these videos, I have to admit, I don't look at them to see which one's better. I always look at them to see if I could pick out the iPhone shot. I don't know why, but I think it's basically because I'm kind of used to how the iPhone renders an image, with the white balance and all that stuff, and you could almost sometimes you could tell.
Oh, I've gotten to the point now where I can tell. Yeah, I can.
Yeah. And Shane says it's the main thing I don't like about Android, my phone, and how I do something may be different to someone else with the same phone somewhere else in the world. Yeah, that's a good point. And again, there's where the laws and all that stuff come in. And but the question is, Dale Lotherington says, but can Samsung do 30 seconds without showing off and doing a few minutes instead? Therein lies the question. Every time there's a conversation about phones, this 30-second thing comes into play, and I love it. And what's Shane's 100% can tell iPhone pics with Astro. They meter differently. Yes, that is true. They definitely do. And it's if you use the same thing long enough, you get to know what it looks like, and you can start picking it out of the batch. So that's what the title of the program is all about. When I said let's play a game, it's all about challenging someone to pick something out of their own photo library and the way to do it, and then narrow it down to one picture, and then they have to edit that picture, even though it's something they don't even like. I think eventually, like I know with mine, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all at first, but I thought, well, you know what? Maybe it's not that bad. And now with your idea, Dwight, about putting a silhouette in front of it there, that's got me thinking, of the possibilities with this image, and something that totally never would have happened otherwise. So that's pretty cool. All right. So I guess we'll move on to our recent photos. Again, to look at your screen on your phone and your podcast app if you're listening on the after the fact, or if you're watching live, you're going to see them right here and right now. And the first one is Dave's.
Yep. And this is, and I will call this the stereotypical tourist picture, because sometimes you got to do what everyone takes a picture of. So Ruth was in a meeting, and I had a couple hours just to do stuff. So I went to the Duquesne Incline. That's the red one going up, and rode it to the top. And there's an overlook out there. And it's kind of neat because there's also a museum with not only old newspaper clippings from like the 30s and the 40s and old information about the incline, but you can actually go down and see the mechanism. So you can see the giant cable that they use to pull up the cars themselves. So it's kind of neat to see, and it's all ancient ancient machinery. I think the last major update, besides like little here and there, was like the 1940s, 1950s. But yeah, so and you just get it's a nice overview of downtown Pittsburgh. And I just waited for the incline to start going down and took a picture kind of right when it was not quite third, but I kind of like the position of the incline and the bridge right there also.
Yeah, I think you nailed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also this is where live photos help.
Yeah, I've seen this. Yeah. I've seen this perspective before, and but I don't remember ever seeing what do they call that thing?
The incline.
The incline, yeah. I don't remember seeing that. Yeah, but that's cool. That's the three rivers where they all kind of come together in there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The one closest to you coming from the right's the Monongahela. Straight ahead coming down is the Allegheny, and where they merged to make the Ohio going to the left.
You know, it's crazy. I'm reading books right now of the early settlers and way back in the day, and both of these rivers were mentioned a lot in a lot of the books. So this is all part of the initial settlement of Western society. It took all place right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice photo.
Oh, welcome. Yeah, I know. And if you look actually at the point itself, the green area behind the fountain, that's actually the outline of the original Fort Duquesne that the French had.
Oh, wow.
And just behind it, you have where the two bridges kind of come together, but there's another green area, a lawn on the other side.
I see
and
it.
that's where Fort Pitt was.
Okay.
So Fort Duquesne was first. The British came because it was really up for grabs who owned it at the time. And they took it over. Fort Duquesne was burned down when they left, and they built Fort Pitt afterwards. So, and kind of right where the two bridges meet, there is a museum specifically of the period, the kind of the founding and pre-Revolutionary War Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you might be interested in the book. It's called The Frontiersman.
It definitely sounds like something I'd be interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, the author is Alan Eckert.
Okay.
Amazing but brutal times.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What I like about the image, Dave, is that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the yellow bridges in the same shot.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's all of them.
Well, the other one's kind of off to your left. So the West End Bridge is off to your left. That's a very similar kind of arch bridge. And
and it goes right over the Ohio then?
Yeah, it goes right over the Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a couple non-yellow bridges, if you will, off to your right. There's at least 3 or 4 close by.
Yeah, well, I think this is the first time I've ever seen a picture of Pittsburgh with so many bridges in it.
And being the same color. I mean, if you go to Cincinnati, they're all different.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But yeah, that's cool. I would love to see you go back here when, summer's in full force with the leaves and everything, or even in the autumn.
Yeah.
In the autumn would be really cool.
Yeah.
Just to repeat this shot again. Because, spring is, I mean, you got things coming out, with leaves and whatnot there now. But it's still just lacking a little bit of color, for, it's a great image. It would be, just imagine what it would be like with the, especially with the fall color.
Foliage, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Shane did.
That would be really cool.
I would say Shane did ask, is there a reason they're all the same color? The 2 arch bridges kind of in the front there, the one on the right's the Fort Pitt Bridge, and the one on the left is the Fort Duquesne Bridge. They were kind of built and designed at the same time. And the 3 bridges to the left, they're called the 3 Sister Bridges. They were all built around the same time.
Oh, yeah?
So they're all 3, they're 3 identical suspension bridges, just one after another. And yeah, I think it's partially the two bridges, like I said, the Fort Duquesne, Fort Pitt, they were pretty much built at the same time, and they were built as to be basically part of an interstate when the interstates were getting built in the late 50s, early 60s. The other ones, I think it's just a matter of after a while, everyone was like, yeah, we have our two, most out in the front bridges being yellow. Let's try to make other things match with it too.
And those all feed out of the Great Lakes, I would imagine.
The Allegheny does. The Monongahela actually goes, well, actually not the Great Lakes. The Allegheny goes up to upstate New York.
Oh, okay.
Is where it starts, but it doesn't hit the Great Lakes. And the Monongahela actually starts down in West Virginia.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it now, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the
Right.
the Mon River is where all the steel mills used to be. When Pittsburgh had all the mills going, they were all up and down the Mon River.
And so, Dwight, you said for drunk paddlers, it's a road map.
Yeah, if you've had a few too many, locals just say follow the yellow bridges and you'll find your way back.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say one story regarding the bridge on the left, the Fort Duquesne Bridge. It was almost built and finished for around 10 years. So they had the arch done, they had the downtown part done. The part that's kind of to the left, those ramps were left undone for around 8 years due to getting the roads ready over there. And there was some kind of, I think there was a labor issue. So the bridge just kind of was done there, and they just had barricades until sometime in 1969 when it was at night. It was a college student, and he just drove off the bridge right into the shore. He survived.
Ooh.
He was fine.
Really?
Yeah, he was fine, even though that's a pretty good haul there. But yeah, he just went through the barriers and and the newspaper, and someone nicknamed it "Flying Off the Bridge to Nowhere."
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, well, that's cool. Well, I mean, hey, that's an interesting history lesson on Pittsburgh, just by capturing a photo of an incline.
There we go.
Yeah, so that's cool. So this is my first one. I want to say I was walking the dog, and this was actually just the top of a fence post, but it kind of reminded me of a like a mountainscape, with big, much taller mountains in the background. But this was with the Reflex 240 with the 300 millimeter macro add-on, and I just took it into Luminar Neo, and I actually, it has a feature called Super Sharpen, and I ran that through the image, and I didn't like it how it sharpened the background, so I masked the front part of it out and just let the sharpening go on the front, and I erased the sharpening on the background there. And then other than that, I just did some color and contrast work. I think I actually had to bring the whites down in the curve adjustment because it was almost just borderline overblown on the whites in some of the brighter parts of these, of the wood on the main part of the middle there. And then there's another setting in Neo called Mystical, and it gives a nice mystical glow to your image, and you can adjust the strength of it. You can bring the shadows down so that they're really a little higher contrast. And so I did that, and then again, I used in the masking, I erased the effect a little bit throughout the middle of the foreground part just to keep some of that wood sharpened a little bit, not soften up so much. And then I think that was all I did. So I've been taking more macro shots lately than anything because we're not, we're still in stick season up here. There's not a lot of foliage coming out yet. Even I'd say another 3 or 4 weeks, and we're going to start seeing leaves on the trees finally. But yeah, so just about everything I'm shooting nowadays is macro. So just having a lot of fun with it.
I'll say I'm kind of shocked it's still, because I know our weather's really similar, and we're having a decent amount of leaves and flowers and everything come out already.
Yeah. Well, our temperatures have been down. Like today was an exception. It was about 19 degrees today, Celsius. Normally, well, not normally, abnormally, it's been abnormally cold. In the low single digits. Like it's been pretty cold and not a lot of sunshine. So we got some sun today and some warmer temperatures. So, I mean, there's a few things. You can see some buds starting to appear. But they're just, everything just seems slow. That's slower than normal, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, they say April showers brings May flowers, so I'm hoping we see a lot more flowers in the May, like in the month of May. But yeah, not too much yet. There's a few, but not much.
Yeah, I love the like I said, it's not overly sharp, which is easy to do, and programs do that all the time on images. They make it like artificially sharp.
Yeah.
And it's always hard to deal with. And I like the patterns too. The striping and because they're the horizontal striping and the diagonal striping too.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it could pass for, those spiky mountains, that you see in some landscape scenes.
Yeah, I mean to me that's a texture. I would put it in my, my texture folder for, artwork or, using it at different overlay values and opacities and stuff like that. But it's interesting. And Greg, I promise you, now that you're starting to do a little work on the desktop, you are not going back to mobile. It's over.
Yeah, I think you're right. I will do a mobile edit in a pinch, it seems.
Yeah. And, something like that, Luminar Neo's kind of fine for that, or Lightroom or whatever you want to use. But yeah, I mean, this is fun. And it's nice to see that you're learning how to use those sliders and what they do. And the mood slider is really nice for taking out some of that sharpening that the Apple Photos does. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, this was a Bayer Raw image. Thanks to you, I've been shooting pretty much everything Bayer Raw, even if it's just a snapshot. I just don't bother changing it to JPEG or ProRAW even.
Yeah, and the more I shoot in Bayer Raw, the more I look at, people's reels on, social media and stuff, and I go, that is so iPhone deep fusion. I can't even look at it. That
yeah,
brights and darks and oversaturated, and
yeah. Even like with the HDR stuff that people are posting, like I've seen on Instagram, yeah, I think maybe even Threads, I've seen a little bit of this where people will post two versions of the same image, one HDR and one non-HDR. And I mean, yeah, the HDR stuff looks pretty cool, but it's giving you false hope, when it comes to doing your own photography, I think in a lot of ways. It's not, Shane says, radioactive Cheetos sunset colors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like you need to be in a class 3 hazmat suit when you look at them.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I'm really starting to prefer shooting in Bayer Raw and just having a little more control over the image. And
Greg, you can have a little.
I mean, if I open up,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You can have a little fun in Luminar when you're in the catalog module. Drag a single photo over into HDR merge and see what the effect is.
I've done that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think the one I did, it didn't really work out for that particular photo, but
it won't.
I'll definitely be trying that again.
It won't always, yeah.
But yeah, this is there's so many people in our group, on the iPhoneography podcast group, in the Reflex group, in Shane's group, posting macro photos, and I love to see that because I think it's the one what do you call it, genre or style or whatever of photography that you can just about shoot anything and come up with a pretty decent photo. I guess that's why I wrote a book on it, because I really think that much of the style and that part of it. It gets you, like you've said in, I think it was the last show when you showed your cactus and stuff. You normally would have just walked by it, and but now you seem to be taking a little more time and appreciating things for what they are, instead of, you look down at things. And I find myself looking at things closely all the time now, especially if I have my lens on my phone, because I know that's what I'm going to shoot with. And whether it's just vines on a railing or whatever, it doesn't matter. I find myself getting lost in it. And Shane is going to work. He's planning a macro astro book.
That'd be interesting.
I can't wait to see this.
That's a big ladder, Shane.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this image or not. It could be hard to tell, over YouTube or through StreamYard here, but I could emphasize there's a web running from the very far left spike, I guess you could call it, across to the next one, and I'm gonna put a little tightrope walker on that.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Yeah, you won't be able to see it there, but it's in the image. And
yeah,
if you guys go to the Photos app and pull this image up in our shared album here, you'll be able to see it. It's up in the kind of the top left corner. Oh, Maurice is in the house. He says, "You'll need a Blue Origin rocket to get close enough, Shane." Yeah, exactly.
And
a couple $100,000.
A spacesuit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's my first one. Moving on to your first one.
Yeah, this is just an iPhone macro shot. So there's no lens.
Okay,
so
cool.
My challenge was to not make it look like an iPhone macro shot. I didn't want everything to be in focus. So I isolated the subject, which is another cactus flower, and I darkened the background a little bit, to bring the subject out. And then I took a Gaussian blur and applied it over the entire image. And then I made a black mask so it all went away. And then I just, like, at 50% opacity with a soft brush, just kind of touched the outside diameter of the prickly pear flower here, just to kind of take it out of focus a little bit. And then I brought it into Adobe Camera Raw just to bring out the texture just a little bit in the center there. That's where I wanted the focal point to be. And brought that back in again with a black mask, and then just kind of painted that in at a lower opacity. So I kind of controlled where I had the effect that I want by bringing it back into Photoshop with black masks.
Well, it worked really well.
You're right. I mean, it just works, and I love it. I'm assuming that's dew on the flower.
Yeah, this is something I was just walking, and I don't think I took more than 2 seconds to take this shot. Well, 3, it had to focus, and then I just kept walking, But I noticed the water on it.
Yeah. And just the way that it's not completely flat like you expect sometimes do. It has that 3-dimensional look to it.
Mm-hmm.
And just how little circles are. And this is one thing that at least those of us who do not live near arid climates, that especially in the spring, a desert area can get very colorful. You get the image from TV and movies that desert is, that beige.
Right.
But
yeah, like the Roadrunner.
Exactly.
Show.
Yeah. Everything's brown beige. But especially, like I said, in spring when the flowers come out, especially the cactus flowers, absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, just the gradation between the red up to the yellow on the flower. Yeah,
that's either morning dew, Dave, or the sprinklers just turned off. Either way, it's a texture.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you had me fooled. I thought for sure you had used like the 240 with the 300 millimeter or something on this. I had no clue that this would have been like the iPhone built-in macro. So I mean, job well done on creating that blur. It looks pretty natural to me.
And you can do that in Luminar Neo as well. You can take the what is it? Which one is the blur? Mystical? No.
Oh yeah. Well, Mystical, I don't think it'll blur it so much.
Anyway, there's a blur
like
slider there
in the background,
and then
but yeah, there's a blur slider.
Yeah, you can blur the entire image and then invert it and kind of do the same thing with a brush here. So
yeah. So and I like that it's not crunchy looking like an Apple Pro RAW file. I'm assuming you took it in Pro RAW, right?
No, it's the Apple macro feature does not shoot in Pro RAW.
Oh, so it does it in Hive?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's how long it's been since I took an Apple macro.
I'm not sure exactly. I can tell you here in just a second. It was it's only a 1.4 megabyte photo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And it's from the ultra wide, and it's a Hive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't have Pro RAW capabilities yet of the native macro function on the iPhone.
Yeah, you do, because I just took one.
You have to turn it on?
I took a macro. It says ultra wide camera, and
interesting.
It took a raw photo. Now maybe there's a I know there's a couple of
it's not going to be 48 megapixels. It's going to be 12.
No, oh no.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh yeah, because this one was only 15 megapixel. So what happens with the ultra wide camera in the iPhone when you're using the ultra wide camera, it may not give you, obviously when there's not enough light, it has to be very bright light to give you the full 48 megapixels. Otherwise, like the telephoto camera, it will it'll take a lot less it'll start pixel bending and stuff, and it'll give you a lower resolution image. And in this case, it was a RAW file, but it was 10.5 or no, sorry, 15 megapixels. So, and it's like an oddball dimension size. So I think basically what it does is it gives you the best it can, the best resolution it can to at least produce the photo. If it was to go to, and obviously what it's doing too is using the main camera. It's involved in that somehow too, I think.
Yeah.
Even though it says like it's a 13 millimeter ultra wide shot with an f2.2 aperture.
Right. And it still has the Apple processing done to it.
Yeah.
So,
because it's Pro RAW, right?
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, well, no, that's interesting. And it was an interesting concept to do with the blurring and that to make it look like it wasn't taken with the Apple phone or the Apple camera.
It would have been better to show the before and after, I think, on this one, just to kind of accentuate the point. But I think you get the idea.
Yeah.
It pretty much looked like the center of this flower everywhere.
Yeah.
Except obviously the background, because my focal point or focal range was the flower. Everything on the flower was clear, even the edges.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's cool. So, Dave, your second one looks like a couple of statues having a staring contest?
Yeah, or a discussion, standing down for a discussion. This is actually just a little bit away from the first photo. So, So the one looking at us is George Washington, and the one facing away from us is a native leader, Guy Suka. And they have the basically the showing when Washington came up as head of the British contingent, basically asking the French to leave their fort, as that's British territory, don't they know? And the way they have the statue set up is you can look in between them and see the city in the background.
Yeah.
So again, it's a nice view, vantage point of the city, and you get a nice view of, let's say, a 180 view. of all the rivers and everything because you're on top of a hill. And pretty much behind you, there's some nice buildings and such, but you can't really see anything behind you. But in front of you, kind of, from arm length to arm length, if you will, lays out the whole area. So I just like the way.
This is a powerful photo.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Yeah. And this was put up, I think, in the early 2000s, the statue. And it's a little bit off the beaten touristy area. So you do have to take a little walk down to see it. But I like it, and it gives you a little history behind it. So it isn't just a statue. And just how they're kind of, it's like not one dominating the other, two, leaders who are pretty much seeing each other as equals.
Yeah, I think George
and it looks like it's copper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The copper, and then it's tarnished.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, Dwight. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was originally thinking that George Washington was like, "Hey, man, we're drinking from the same cask of rum. Let's stop shooting arrows at each other."
Well, I think originally they were originally on the same side, and then they butted heads against each other later on.
Yeah. There's I don't want to ruin that book for you, but it covers a lot of that.
This is a classic iPhone versus Android photo. Look at his face. Like, why do you use an iPhone? Why do you use an Android?
Well, I have flowers in my hair, so I use Android.
So anyway,
there you go, Shane. I'm just kidding.
No, but
we're not going to let that go.
It is a powerful photo. And there's so much history in the U.S. because it's such an old country. Like in terms of like in North American terms here, I know there's much older countries in Europe and places like that, but I mean it's 100 years older than Canada, roughly, give or take. I don't know, 10 years, whatever it is. But so I really like that. The cities like Pittsburgh and places like that put these things up for people to learn about the history. It's pretty cool. Shane says he's wondering why he isn't in the group chat anymore because he's a green bubble. Oh, yeah, that I could see a lot of fun to be had with this. But no, it's a great image, and you'd almost think it was painted, but that's why I asked. I was pretty sure it was just copper, and then it had tarnished over time. But
I wasn't. Really gives it I didn't live here when they put up the statues, but I'm assuming it. It wasn't like you hear stories of the Statue of Liberty. When it was put up, it was copper, like a penny copper if you're in the U.S. or copper wire copper, and then it had that patina to the green over time. Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming the statue already was kind of pre-weathered. Because the statues always kind of look like that. Even first time I saw it, that was in the maybe 10 years ago. So it was already up for only 15 years. And I don't think that would have, changed color that quick. I may be wrong. I'm not familiar with it, but
I think pieces came over on a boat too, right? And then maybe it got some of that, in advance. That'd be good to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that shot through and seeing the city in between. That's a powerful photo.
Okay, so this is my second one. So I had mentioned just a few minutes ago about how I walk along and I'm just looking at things, and even a vine along a fence line or something like that. I think that's exactly what this is. There was there's a fence, and wait, I'm trying to think if that was along this fence line or where this was exactly. But I really like the spiral in this vine, and I think it is there's a certain kind of berry. I forget what it's called now, but anyway, I called this one spiraling out of control. Just I don't know. It's the first thing that came to my mind, but again, the Bayer Raw Photo, Luminar Neo. And so the first thing I do, I should have said this earlier, the first thing I do in Neo is there's an AI enhance slider. And it just works the same as the one in the mobile app, where you just start bringing it up, and you can get to a certain point where you look at it and you say, that looks good. I think I'm done. But with all the tools available in Neo, I'm not stopping there. I'm going. I'm going to move on with something else. I'm going to try other things. So I tried the super sharpen again. There's three settings: low, medium, and high. And I think I just did the low setting. Then what did I do? I think I used the mystical adjustment again to give it some softness in some areas. And then I used a brush to mask the softness away from like the central part, and then down along that branch where the spiral comes down and meets the branch and then kind of goes back up again. I wanted that to be sharp again. So, I just did some work with the masking and stuff like that. And then just a slight vignette. I even added a little linear gradient just to the bottom part to, kind of darken the shadows right there at the bottom, because the vignette didn't quite give it enough. Had I given it enough with the vignette, then the vignette would have been too strong all the way around. I just wanted to give it a little boost on the bottom. And the nice thing about the vignette tool in Luminar Neo is you can pick the subject. So I hit the select subject thing, and you get a crosshair with your cursor, and I just put it in the middle of the spiral. And what that does is that makes the vignette go from there, not just necessarily the same amount around the whole frame.
Yeah, you can recenter the vignette. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think I might have did a little bit of saturation or more vibrance, I think, than saturation with that, just to kind of get the color to come out of the wood. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the spiral look, and like you said, the spiraling out of control is a perfect feel, and just because it isn't, a perfect spiral.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a twisted spiral. It's not a perfect thing going around and around, but you can see things intersecting and, going through the spiral, and the spiral kind of bending on itself at the end there. So yeah, that's an extra nice little touch. And like you said, having at the bottom the the texture of the wood underneath.
Yeah. That's I like how you kind of explained how you painted in the effect that you wanted there, and you can do that at different opacities and stuff like that. So I think it really gave this image depth, and a very, very interesting find. I can tell that if you and I took a walk with our families, that our families wouldn't want to walk with us too much.
They'd be gone. They'd be way up the road.
Yep.
We'd be sitting back.
They never walk with us again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, good job.
Well, but my wife and I will take our dogs to the park or somewhere, and she'll walk one and I'll walk the other. And I'll take the old dog because she's slow and she doesn't mind waiting and things like that. Whereas my wife will take the young whippersnapper that was on here last show, Ginger, and that dog has one speed, and that's full blast. So, if I'm trying to get pictures of stuff, it's a lot easier just to tell Hannah, just wait, and she'll just stand there and wait. And then, she's very patient. And then when it's time to move on, away we go. But this is actually inspired by a photographer on Instagram named Scott Galloway. He's Scott Forgot on Instagram. And it's his macro work is, especially the editing, is just really, really cool. He was one of two macro photographers featured in the last issue of Mobiography magazine. And I've been trying to get my edits to look a little more like his, but I just can't seem to get them the same, which is fine because that's his style. I'm just trying to be a cheapskate and try to copy it, but but his images are just absolutely crazy good, and I'd love to see him put a photo book out. Doesn't have to write a damn word. He could just put a photo book out with his images, and I'd buy it because it's his stuff is so cool. But I've been especially with Neo, I've been trying to kind of copy his style just a little bit in the editing, just to play around with it and develop my own style out of that. And I think I'm kind of on a bit of a trend here with it. So
yeah, I think you'd mentioned him before, Greg. So I went and looked at him, and that's kind of the macro look that I really like as well, because it's artistic. And I think there's different ways that you can get there. And I know Lori Langford is really good at doing that too. She does some stuff where she might take a picture of a flower straight on and then move 5 degrees, take another picture of it, move 5 degrees, and go all the way around this thing, and then superimpose all of the photos on top of each other in different blending modes, and then mask away, different pieces of it. So it almost looks like the thing's almost like a painting, when you put it all together.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
I think he
cool.
isolates his subject more on kind of like a dark background, so the subject is really standing out, and not much detail in the background. So I think it's nice.
Yeah, he's got a good eye for what he does. And the one thing that I noticed in the article in Mobiography magazine is that he says he puts the focal point at the closest point to the viewer or to the camera. I think it works well for him that way. This particular image here, there is a where the spiral kind of comes out and comes towards you. It gets blurry there. But that's fine because it's coming off the focal plane. But he somehow manages to pick subject matter where he doesn't have that issue. He has just whatever it is he's shooting, and then everything else beyond going further back just gets blurred. And I'm not sure what lenses he's using. It could be Moment. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back to the article and see if he mentions it. But yeah, I really like his work. I'm gonna see if he'll come on sometime and talk about it. I think that would be a really good show too. So that's my macro inspired by Scott Forgot. And Dwight, this is your second one.
Yeah, so I'm staying with the theme of macro as well this week, and to piggyback a little bit on what you said earlier. This is the time of year when things are starting to grow, and instead of jogging down the street to get my next 12-pack, I'm not doing that so much these days anymore, and I'm kind of noticing the smaller details. And this one is probably one of my favorite macros that I've taken, I think, to date, and I think it's due to how the light rendered through this. And this is a high photo with the Reflex 240 with, I think, the 200 millimeter macro clip on. I did soften the edges of this thing a little bit. I wanted more of the outer circumference of that flower to be a little bit more dreamy looking, and then I isolated the flower and brought down the background a little bit, so it wasn't too overpowering. But I did kind of blur the edges a little bit more on the flower, and I really wanted to kind of accentuate the what do you call that thing in the middle? I used to know. Anyway, the center of the flower, and then I just liked how the light rendered throughout the photo. So.
Now, I love the little bit on the very tip, the yellow tip on the very the little yellow bit that's perfect 6-star, six armed star and it's not really side, but 6-armed star. How it just looks fuzzy.
Yeah,
this has that fuzzy look with the black strings looking parts. It's been decades since I've had biology course, but
yeah.
But no, just the contrast with the black and the gold and you have yellow and gold. Say the tips being golden and the rest of the plant being more yellow.
So I think that's the pistil.
Yeah.
Pistil.
Yeah, I think that's the pistil, and then I think those longer ones are the stamen.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And the point of focus is dead nuts. It's right on there.
Yeah, and when you're shooting with a third-party app, you really, and it's hard. I'm handheld here, and you just got to catch it when you see that focus peaking just hit that, and I just got it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It takes me anyway. It takes me a couple of shots to get just the right spot, but focus peaking definitely does help. And what I really like about this is the lighting. It looks like it's either morning or evening. Just the way the light is, kind of going through all the stamen and the shadows coming down and hitting the petals and that. It makes me wonder what the whole flower looks like, but at the same time, I don't care because this is, this is just satisfying in itself just to see this part of it.
This was 12 noon, 1 o'clock. So the photo was bright. So I isolated the subject and brought down the background a little bit just to bring out and accentuate the light to fool you to think it was either earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, but say it does not have that harsh light look to it.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. So that was very well captured. Yeah, can't say enough about it. And the softness around the edge really works too. Sometimes those lenses could soften too much and maybe not enough, depending on the angle you're at and the distance you are from the subject and whatnot. But I think that was a good move by softening that up just a little bit.
Yeah, the nice thing about Photoshop is, you're doing it all with masking, so you can control the opacity. If it looks too soft, you can take some of it off.
Yeah, well, these are been some really good images this week, guys. Gosh, I don't know. I'm so inspired to get out and shoot some more. I don't have the cityscapes that you have, Dave. I don't have the cactus and all the flowers and stuff that you have going on, Dwight. But when this stuff does come out, I'll never get the cityscape unless I go to a bigger city. But this town I live in, it's not really. I could probably get some kind of a cityscape, but I don't know. Maybe I'll challenge myself this summer to try to do something like that. But I'm always inspired by doing this segment of the show. And I haven't heard anybody ever complain about it, so that's a good thing. So we can keep doing it. But as far as playing that little game goes, folks, go ahead and challenge someone. Explain to them that it's you could just keep it between the two of you, or you could share it on social media, however you want to do it. But I encourage you to give it a shot and see what it's like to edit an image that you probably would have overlooked. And I'll guarantee you the results will be satisfying no matter what you do. And again, don't do an image that you don't want to show other people or whatever. Like if it's got something personal in it, or if it's just something silly like a picture of a document or something that you don't want to edit that, but just take, say, the next one beside it or whatever. Find a decent one and challenge a friend to do the same and see what you come up with. It's a lot of fun. So, well, great show, guys. Anything else you want to bring up before we call it an evening?
Yeah, I've got a couple of quick announcements, if you don't mind. A couple months back, we had Alex Fox on our show in the Mood Camera app, and there was a recent update to that app that now lets you save presets, and it's really starting to take off, at least in the subreddit for Mood Camera. And some of the audience in there, or the participants, are sharing their actual presets that they're creating to get certain looks, and it's a ton of fun. So if you have the Mood app, you probably have that free upgrade, and then you can get in there and start making your personal presets and actually sharing them with the community. and there's some really neat stuff that's showing up there. Some really experienced photographers are having a lot of fun getting the film look. So there's that, and then I wanted to confirm that it is Repix on the iPad, and I did do a quick edit on Dave's photo here.
Mm-hmm.
So I added some bokeh around the light and a few ravens, and then I put a few stars.
Oh, cool!
In the dark, you can kind of see them there.
Oh,
on top there, yeah.
Oh, neat.
And I sent that into
cool.
the iPhone photography group, so you guys can take a look at it. Just something real quick I did within 20 seconds. So Repix, and I'm not sure it's available on the iPhone. It might be the iPad only.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I'll look that up, and if it's available on the iPhone, I'll put a link in the show notes. Well, I'll put a link in anyway, whether it's iPad only or whatever, and people can check that out. So, and thanks for that update on Mood. I haven't played with it since the update, but I will be looking at it. And the nice thing about all these different apps is that you could use them for macro shots like this. You know, I want to try one on a macro shot now and see how it looks. Kind of mix the old time film look with the new technology of these lenses and stuff, just to see what I can come up with and take it from there. But anyway, well, thank you everybody for joining us live in the chat. And Shane, we will be keeping an eye on your channel for some of these videos with the Samsung and others, and see what you come up with. And we'll have to have you on again sometime. Maybe talk about this little adventure that you're getting into, and see what happens. But anyway, thanks guys, appreciate it. And on that note, I guess we got ourselves a show, and we'll see everybody in the next one.
Yep, sounds good. Take care, everyone.
Have a great one, everyone.